Director Umphrey is going to talk to us about the golf courses in our system. Director Umphrey, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair French and Commissioners. Could someone pull up the report from the drive?
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now. Just 1 second.
Thank you. So, Chair French and Commissioners, the purpose of this today is just to give an overview of where the golf season is so far this year and answer any questions you may have. So, next slide, please. So, nationally, golf has been trending upward. In 2020, there was an increase of over 20%. In Minneapolis, saw about a 35% increase in rounds played. So we were well above the national average in golf. It's also becoming much more popular amongst younger players, which really speaks well for the future of the game. We estimate that rounds by under 30-year-olds increased by about 35% nationally at about the same rate in Minneapolis in 2020 from 2019. And that trend is continuing strong early in 2021. And some of our top priorities are maintaining our courses, keeping up the pace of play, and our amenities. Those are the key factors to retaining golfers. And then reinvesting in the courses that have a positive player experience is the top goal of the department moving forward. Next slide, please. So these are some of our early 2021 season highlights, kind of through the end of June. So about the first half or 40% of the golf season. Next slide, please. So in 2020, as you're all aware, we had a large revenue increase in golf. 2021 has seen a continuation of that trend. And early season rounds of golf are well surpassing 2020. In 2020, we were about $1.75 million ahead of our budget projection. In this year, golf kicked off the season on February 27th with our preseason sales and league registration. And to date, we've sold 208 season passes, almost 2,000 players cards, and we've filled 24 different leagues. About a 30% increase from where we were in 2020. Which really gives us a strong base of players playing golf throughout the system. We also opened in mid-March this year, which is about 3 weeks earlier than in 2020 due to COVID restrictions, which does play a factor in why we are so far ahead of last year. Next slide, please. And so we do have some construction projects and improvements. I believe the superintendent touched on one or two of them in his report today, and I'll go over a few of them with you as well. Next slide, please. So at Columbia Golf Course, we're nearing completion of a multi-million-dollar drainage project on the north end of the course. Excuse me. The course is rerouted slightly. One of the holes that was a par 4 is turning into a par 3. We're lengthening a par 4 into a par 5 to maintain a par 71. There'll be a large holding pond for water on the northwest end of the property, which will really have a positive effect on 4 or 5 holes that had significant issues with water, not allowing us to bring carts out after rain and really causing havoc with our maintenance crews trying to mow or maintain the turf. Construction is almost complete. I was actually by there about 3 hours ago. They are laying sod on the new areas. They have trucks out there doing that. So we'll have a little bit of a growing period that will take place the remainder of this year. And the full course will reopen in early 2022, probably around the 15th of May. Some will depend on what we get for weather in the spring. Gross Golf Course just had hole number 3 regraded and done. It was a bottleneck in the golf course that caused lots of delays. We flattened out the green and added a new tee box and moved a bunker that really is going to improve the pace of play there and make for a more enjoyable experience. And then at Meadowbrook Golf Course, we are getting ready to take bids for a new clubhouse. We're hopefully going to start construction in the fall of 2021 and complete that in 2022. So a couple of major projects. We've been going for 4 years now at Meadowbrook Golf Course with a trailer instead of a clubhouse. So it'll be a really nice improvement at that facility. Next slide, please.
Certainly. And Director Umphrey, let me just interrupt for one moment. We do have 2 time-certain public hearings on our agenda tonight at the Planning Committee. We don't have any call-in speakers for those public hearings, so the decision has made to proceed with this committee until we get to Planning Committee. Just to let folks know, we're getting several texts and comments coming in. Sorry, Director Umphrey.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
And then I'm just going to take a minute to go over each of our 6 different properties and give a couple of individual highlights for them. So first we'll start with Columbia Golf Course, where Mark Reimer is the course manager and Isaac Risford is the superintendent. Next slide. So some information about Columbia. The rounds of golf have gone down slightly in 2021 due to the construction project. Operating a 9-hole golf course obviously is going to have less traffic than the 18-hole golf course. However, the driving range at Columbia has seen a significant increase in use. And we've also added food and beverage options there during the evenings and weekends, which has really been well received. We've worked with our food vendor to have those options available at that site. Weddings and events have also really picked up since COVID restrictions have lifted. So we're seeing a lot more events inside the chalet at this time. Columbia is also home to the first tee of the Twin Cities. We have a large youth program. If you drive by Columbia just about any day during the summer, you'll see instructors with groups of youth utilizing the practice facility there. And in a normal year, Columbia does about 35,000 rounds of golf. I'm imagining this year will probably be around 25 to 27,000 rounds of golf. And then I believe after we open back up fully, we'll probably be well over 35,000 rounds of golf as people are excited to take advantage of the new facility. Next slide, please. Next, we'll talk about Francis A. Gross Golf Course, where Dave Bratland is the course manager and Jason Wolford is the superintendent. Next slide. Gross has seen a significant increase in rounds. It is typically our busiest golf course. Many of the league players from Columbia moved over there this year due to the construction. Gross is also on pace to possibly have 50,000 rounds played, which has not happened at a Minneapolis golf course since 2004. So they were at about 44,000 rounds last year, and they are ahead of last year's pace. They've been extremely busy. Gross also has a driving range facility that hits off mats only, and they also host first tee of the Twin Cities on that driving range and on their practice green. Next slide. So Hiawatha Golf Course, where Dan Stoneberg is the course manager and Dan Amon is the superintendent. Next slide, please. So Hiawatha has seen the largest increase in rounds played from 2020 to this year. They're up over 35% from the same point this season. Since reopening fully after the 2014 floods, there's been an increase in rounds at Hiawatha Golf Course every year. Hiawatha also hosts Minneapolis public schools, golf teams, and works closely with the first tee of the Twin Cities at their driving range and practice facility. And they're kind of the hub of South Minneapolis for first tee golf. Its driving range is very popular and it's used by adult lessons as well as youth lessons. And it's probably the most used in the system and accounts for about 20% of the revenue at that facility. Hiawatha does around 35 to 40,000 rounds of golf a year, which is up from about 25,000 to 30,000 from 2017 to 2019. And after Hiawatha flooded in 2014, the first year we were fully open again in 2016, they did about 22,000 rounds. So they've seen a giant increase over the last 4 to 5 years after the flooding and the reconditioning of that golf course. Next slide, please. The Meadowbrook Golf Course, where Joe Green is the course manager and Chris Amok is the superintendent. Next slide. So Meadowbrook also flooded in 2014, as many of you remember, and after it was closed for about 3 years. It's returned very strongly. Although it doesn't have a clubhouse, we do provide food and beverage service at the first tee through a food truck, and we have mobile beverage cart service throughout the course. Shortly after the course flooded, the clubhouse flooded. So there's the construction project that we mentioned earlier that will be hopefully completed next spring. It's one of the busiest golf courses in the system with about 45,000 rounds a year played. It also hosts multiple large tournaments and is home to the Blake and Hopkins High School golf. Next slide, please. Theodore Wirth Golf Course, where Roxanne Maxey is the course manager and Clayton Krieger is the superintendent. Next slide, please. So Theodore Wirth probably hosts the widest range of events throughout the system, being in a regional park in a popular location. It has over 20 all-day tournaments booked in 2021. They have 27 holes of golf at that facility. They host a giant Juneteenth Father's Day event. They have over 100 weddings and special events every year in the chalet. It's shared with bikers, walkers, and winter recreation. It's also seen a giant increase in rounds of about 10,000 per year over the past 3 seasons. The 18-hole and 9-hole course combined for 45 to 50,000 rounds of golf per year. Wirth also does a great job. They work with a couple of the north side recreation centers that offer golfing opportunities for youth on the north side. And currently those occur on Wednesday afternoons and Sunday mornings with weekly programs. There's about 30 youth right now from North Minneapolis that participate in these programs. Next slide, please. And Fort Snelling Golf Course, where Mike Baker runs the golf course and Dan Ament is there. Next slide. So we operate a 9-hole golf course at Fort Snelling. Most people just call it the Fort. We have a 30-year lease agreement with the Minnesota DNR, which expires after the 2029 golf season. There's a large population of seniors and veterans that play golf on a daily basis there. We receive a $20,000 a year grant from the county that allows veterans to play at a reduced rate. It's home to a very popular and active women's league, which plays weekly from April through September. It's also one of the largest women's leagues in the system. And about 15 to 20,000 rounds of golf are played each year at Fort Snelling. So that's a little highlight from each of the courses. And I believe if you'd like to go to the next slide, I would be happy to take any questions that any commissioners may have.
Okay, I only see one hand up, Commissioner Severson.
Thank you, Chair French. Mr. Umphrey, this was impressive. I appreciate this. I should have asked for this earlier, highlighting this recreation opportunity to the general public. I do have a few questions. With Meadowbrook going out for bid, are we planning on building something that'll be more like Theodore Wirth and Columbia, where folks can have weddings, all-class reunions, birthdays, community events? Are we just going to do something, just small in general?
Chair French, Commissioner Severson, right now the plans that we have been reviewing are for a smaller, and Assistant Superintendent Schroeder would be a little more well-versed, but I think it's about a 1,300 square foot facility, so not a giant banquet hall with big kitchens and all that. I think the cost of building something like that was a little prohibitive. Plus, we have different issues with zoning and building things at Hopkins. They're a little tougher to deal with. I don't know if Assistant Superintendent Schroeder has anything to add, but from what I'm gauging, we're looking at about a 1,300 or 1,400 square foot clubhouse. So roughly the size, maybe a little smaller than Hiawatha's clubhouse, but kind of more on par with that.
Don't we make a ton of money off rentals at Columbia and Worth, the chalets with weddings and birthdays and community events?
Our net revenue at the wedding halls is it's not giant. It's significant, but with our rental rates being what they are, we're basically profiting, a few $100s per wedding.
And are we there? It's pretty booked though, right? From what I've noticed, it's pretty solidly booked out.
Yeah, Columbia and Worth are both pretty solidly booked. I think Worth maybe a little more so. It might be a little more desirable of a location, and I think the charm of the chalet has a lot to do with it.
I would hope that we would go back and review what this might look like. I mean, if these are booked out, it's quite obvious that there's a demand for it in the city. And I just think it'd be a missed opportunity if we're not going to, put something into this course that we, can make money, that we can make money on, not just golf, but these huge rentals that take place. And like I said, they're in our parks. They're great opportunities. Sometimes they're seen as adult places where they can actually have liquor at these events, right? Yeah. It's not quite often in our parks that we can have that. So I don't know if it's too late to revisit that, but I'd like to have more of a conversation around that. In your expert opinion at Hiawatha, are we going to lose golfers? Are we going to lose money with just a 9-hole course versus this 18-hole course we currently have if this vote gets approved next month or whenever it's coming?
I can speak from what I know. The business of golf in Minnesota is you cannot put as many people through a 9-hole course as you can an 18-hole course, and based just on where we're at with Columbia per se this year being under construction, the rounds are down 30% or so, and the revenue per round is also down.
So we would perhaps lose money if we had 9 holes versus 18 at Hiawatha, in your expert opinion.
I don't know if we would lose net, but we wouldn't make as much. That's my.
I see that. I see that as a loss. I appreciate you being political on that as much as possible. Do you know how much water we're pumping currently out of Hiawatha?
I do not.
Would you assume it's over our exceeded limit?
I honestly don't know off the top of my head what our exceeded limit is, so I couldn't comment intelligently on that one.
Okay, all right. I'd like to tell my fellow colleagues that I look at golf a little bit differently. I look at this as an opportunity for us to bring money in. That's why I'd like to have more of a conversation around Meadowbrook's clubhouse or hopefully a chalet. This is a burden that we could take off the taxpayer some, and I think that we need to invest in our golf courses a little bit more, and in the end, I think we turn profits that help fund, hopefully youth programs. That would be my ask, that maybe directly affect youth violence programs in our community. So, Larry, thanks. You did a great job tonight. And the last thing I'll say is I was supposed to be at Theater Worth this morning with Super Bowl champion Tyler Johnson hitting on the course. And it kind of made me sad when I heard you talk about the younger people that are out on the course, but it really makes me happy. But this morning, I was going to be the oldest guy on the course with 6 of us, and not just by a couple years, by quite a few years. But I think the good news is that young people are out golfing, and it's getting much more diverse. So thanks for your time.
Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair French. Director Umphrey, do you have demographic data on who's playing 9 holes of golf versus who's playing 18 holes of golf in terms of age and gender breakdown by chance?
Chair French, Commissioner Musich, I don't have it readily available. It would probably be anecdotal. We don't ask for gender identification or age when we're taking tee times for patrons. The only time we ask for proof of age is if they're renting a golf cart, we don't sell any alcohol. So I would have to look through our registration system to see if we can pull that, but it might be anecdotal to say, you know, I could make a guess, and I would guess that it would be, you know, decently close, but I don't know how accurate it would be.
Okay. Does the software that we utilize for the renting of golf, or not renting of golf, I'm sorry, the signing up for tee time,
Yep.
does that software allow us to collect demographic data?
I haven't asked, so I would imagine you probably could, but it would be voluntarily entered by the people. So it's different than when we're taking like a program registration for something. This is basically someone, you know, going online and kind of almost, you know, just putting in.
I've booked a tee time, so I know how it works currently. So I would be interested in us seeing what we can do to collect voluntary demographic data from people. When we're talking about future planning, it's incredibly helpful for us to understand what the trends are amongst various age groups, as those trends can inform how we support the golf courses moving forward. Anecdotally, I can tell you that the young people in my life, they only play 9 holes. They don't have time to play 18. And if we're trying to be expanding more and more options for younger people to play, it may be more attractive to them to have more 9-hole tee times be open and that sort of thing. So if we could better understand that, I think that it would be helpful for us in terms of making policy around how we utilize this asset in our system. I'm also interested in understanding what the status is of the control and mitigation of damage to the courses from the European Chafer is, particularly at Hiawatha. Do you have information about that to share with us this evening?
I do not have any information on that, but I can look into it and get back to you on it.
Okay, because I know they were causing a lot of turf damage, and I'd love to be able to tell people that we were able to identify a control method that's preventing that from spreading.
Yep, I know Dan was working on it there, but I can check with him and report back.
Okay, fantastic. And then you mentioned First Tee at just a handful of the course locations. Back when I had my son enrolled in that program, it was at all 7 MPRB courses. Is it still being offered at all courses, or is it only at the locations that you mentioned on your presentation?
Right now, the First Tee of it's not. It used to be First Tee of Minneapolis. Now it's First Tee of the Twin Cities. So St. Paul and Minneapolis share a chapter now. We used to have our own chapter in Minneapolis. So right now, First Tee is being offered at the courses that have learning centers, which is Gross, Columbia, and Hiawatha.
Okay, and are we assessing whether or not there is demand to have it at the other locations? I know sometimes transportation can be a real issue for young families in particular that may be interested in participating in these programs.
Yeah, we've actually been in discussion with our golf pros about potentially doing. We can't call it First Tee of Minneapolis or First Tee of the Twin Cities, but doing another round of youth golf lessons and opportunities at our other courses as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if later in the summer something like that rolls out.
Okay, and then my last request is about the First Tee program. Right now, when you click their link off our website, the website it takes you to is confusing and doesn't have accurate information and refers you to someone who refers you to someone else who refers you to another person. So if their website can't be updated to give people accurate information about how to participate in the programs that we offer, could we instead update our own website with the accurate information that you ultimately get from the golf course directors when you get referred to them, so that people don't get frustrated and just give up, and instead can connect to those programs for their kids? Because my son loved it, and I would love every kid that wants to have an opportunity to be able to engage in that program. It was just a real confidence builder, and the support the kids get to be confident in being out on the course with adults is instrumental in having them be able to go out there and play the game, even without an adult advocating for them. So yeah, thank you. One more question, sorry. Do we use tax dollars to operate the MPRB golf courses, or are they funded entirely through the enterprise fund?
We are funded through the enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Secretary Ringo, how are our time-sensitive item hearings looking right now? Do we have folks who would like to?
Thank you, Chair French. We do have the chair for the 6:30 public hearing who just came on. So ideally, if we were ready, or if we could recess and go over to the planning committee to at least hold that public hearing, that would be ideal.
Think it'd be a good time to do it now? We have 5 more minutes, or can I get one more question on the commissioners?
I think you have time to get at least one more comment from commissioners.
Okay, Commissioner Severson, for the second time.
Yeah, I have one more question. Thanks for recognizing me again, Chair French. The learning centers, they all have hitting ranges. That's why they're the options for first tee, correct?
Yeah, they have the space and practice facilities to accommodate the youth.
Okay, that's what I suspected. Last question. Some of our former leaders in the park board quite often referred or said that golf is dead or golf is dying. In your expert opinion, is golf dead or is golf dying, Mr. Umphrey?
Chair French, Commissioner Severson, so I may have a biased view, but I think golf is in a resurgence, in a renaissance, and I hope that we continue to build on what we've done the last couple of years. There are so many more people in the game and so many young people joining the game and investing in the game that I'm hoping we can build on the momentum that we have.
Thanks again for your presentation. Thanks for recognizing me, Chair French.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. I will recess the Recreation Committee